Live NFL trivia every Wednesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge for a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. When you think of the 1994 New York Jets, and you think of how their season ended, what's the first play that comes to mind? If you're like me, then you probably thought of one of the most heartbreaking plays in the over 60-year history of the franchise, and quite possibly the greatest play of Hall of Famer Dan Marino's career. You think of the fake spike, and it makes sense why. It was a revolutionary play. The Jets didn't win another game after that, with their season completely going down the tubes in the immediate aftermath. Pete Carroll wouldn't survive another year, and whereas the Jets were at least somewhat competent throughout the 1990s at that point, after that play, the mid-90s would result in the Jets becoming one of the most dysfunctional, incompetent teams in all of football. And as bad as the fake spike was, there was one play that might have been even worse. There was one play that may have contributed to their downfall even more, and may have been even more heartbreaking simply because of how controversial it was. Because 2 weeks before the fake spike, they lost at the hands of another future Hall of Fame quarterback in Brett Favre. On November 13, 1994, the Jets lost in controversial fashion on what many consider to be a blown pass interference call that completely changed the complexion of the 1994 season. And this is the story behind that play. Before I talk about the controversial play in question, we need some context to understand the importance of this game, because it will help us to understand in the grand scheme of things why this game and this call were so important to begin with. Through 10 weeks, there was a heated battle for the postseason in both conferences, and in the NFC, one of the teams involved was the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay was a team that was clearly on the upswing thanks to the emergence of Brett Favre, who made the Pro Bowl the previous year and guided the Packers to the postseason the year before for the first time since the strike shortened season in 1982. And after a somewhat slow start to the season, where they were 3-4 entering Halloween, they were starting to look like the Packers of old. They had the second best defense in the NFC, having allowed just 133 points through 9 games, and the third best defense in all of football, only behind Cleveland and Dallas. And their offense, which had been struggling, was starting to get it going, having scored 71 points over their last 2 games. Now the 5-4 Packers were fighting with a whole slew of teams for one of the wildcard spots. As for the Jets, they also entered this game with a 5-4 record, after missing the playoffs in each of the past 2 seasons under Bruce Coslet, and after finishing without a winning record every year since 1988, they seem to finally be trending in the right direction. They're neck and neck with the Buffalo Bills for the final wildcard spot in the conference, thanks in part to a defense that has allowed the 4th fewest points in the AFC and has forced 15 turnovers in its last 4 games. The Jets and Packers were both teams with a ton to play for and with a good part of their season on the line. And with that, we head to Lambeau Field on a relatively warm November day by Wisconsin standards, all things considered. The winner of this game not only stays above 500, and not only improves their chances of making it to the postseason and fighting for a wild card, but also improves their chances tremendously of winning the division, as both teams enter this game 2 off the lead. The loser of this game, however, drops to 500, has virtually no shot at winning the division, and will have an uphill climb to make it to the postseason, with little room for error. The stakes are set, the teams know what they're playing for, it's time to play some football. The game starts off on Green Bay's first drive with Brett Favre hitting James Brooks in the back corner of the end zone to give the Packers the early 7-0 lead. Those were the only points of the first quarter, as the Jets were struggling a bit on offense to start things off. On their first 5 drives of the game, they failed to cross Green Bay's 40-yard line, walking away empty-handed all 5 times. However, toward the middle of the second quarter, they finally started to get things going, driving down the field to get Nick Lowry in position to hit a 20-yard field goal, and then scoring a touchdown on their next drive with Boomer Esiason hitting Rob Moore for an 11-yard strike. Side note, if you want to learn more about a different game that Moore had during that 1994 season, which might have been the best performance of his career, then click the card in the upper right corner. The Jets held a 10-7 lead at the halftime break, and that was big, because the 4 times that the Jets were either tied at the half or were leading, they ended up winning the game. When you're 1-4 trailing at the half but 4-0 when you're not playing from behind, that tells you everything you need to know. However, the Packers were about to get some big breaks to erase this deficit. First, Pat Terrell drops what should have been the easiest interception of his life. He never had a pick in his time with the Jets before this, and never would have one after this. This was his golden opportunity to silence the Lambeau crowd, give the Jets good field position, and maybe make the deficit hard to climb out of. And he blew it. The second break was when on 3rd down, Anthony Pryor was called for pass interference on Terry Mickens. The announcers called it a bad call, and on the surface, yeah, the referees blew this one. Didn't look like any contact on the play, and the Jets were livid about this call, both on the field and in the post-game press conference after. Green Bay, having gotten 2 lifelines, capitalized on the drive after Favre threw his second touchdown pass of the day, finding Anthony Morgan for a 17-yard touchdown to make it 14-10. Eventually, the Jets get the ball back at the start of the fourth quarter and make it into Green Bay territory. When faced with 4th down in no man's land, they decide to go for it. It doesn't work, as Boomer Esiason gets picked off by former first-round pick Terrell Buckley. The Packers wind up with a field goal on the ensuing drive, and now lead it by 7 points with 7 minutes left. If the Jets were going to have a shot, they were going to have to do something on this drive right here. And what followed was the incredibly controversial ending to this critical game. This had all the makings of a clutch drive. Every time the Jets faced adversity and had their backs up against the wall, they got out of it. It started on the 3rd play, when they faced a 3rd and 3 situation. After burning their first time out, Esiason handed it off to the fullback Richie Anderson, who would actually go on to play 10 seasons in New York and even made it to the Pro Bowl in 2000. He has just enough yardage for the first down. Then they faced a 2nd and 18 following a sack, and the Jets proceed to get all 18 yards back in one go, with Esiason hitting Johnny Mitchell for a first down. 3 plays later, they had a 3rd and 3, and Esiason once again went to work, this time hitting Art Monk for their 13-yard gain and the first down. And 3 plays after that, faced with 3rd and 9, Esiason got 8 of those yards back after hitting Rob Moore, then converted the necessary 4th and 1 with a 3-yard pass to Johnny Mitchell. The Jets were getting themselves into pickle after pickle to try and tie this game up, or possibly win it. And every time they did, they knew how to wiggle their way out of it. Now they were in the red zone with less than 2 minutes to go. That's the good news. The bad news is that with a drive this long, this was it. You're not getting the ball back after this, so you better find the end zone here, or it's all over. First down, and Esiason looks for more. Nothing doing. 2nd down, and once again, Esiason looks for more. And once again, nothing doing. In case you haven't been able to figure it out by now, Esiason really liked throwing to Moore. He was targeted 18 times this game, whereas no other player on the Jets was targeted more than 6 times. 3rd down, and Esiason hits Monk for a gain of 7. It's not enough for the first down, but it's more manageable now with 4th and 3. The Jets burn their second timeout as they try to draw up the play that will decide this game. In the huddle, Esiason told Moore, "I'm coming to you no matter what." Obviously, Moore was going to be the primary receiver on the play, and in practice, Esiason told Moore that he was going to make some plays in this one. Now, everyone knew the assignment. Everyone, whether they were a spectator or were in the huddle, knew that this ball was going to Moore. And with that, it was time to let it play out on the field. Esiason drops back to pass, look for Moore, and it falls incomplete. Game over. Packers win. But the Jets were livid. If they thought the pass interference call in the 3rd quarter was bad, you can imagine their reaction with Moore getting pulled by cornerback Doug Evans and nothing being called. And after the game, all of the talk was about the controversial ending. First, we have to ask ourselves the all-important question. Was this pass interference? Head coach Pete Carroll seemed to think so, saying that he had a sick feeling after that loss thanks to a couple critical calls. Boomer Esiason seemed to think so, as he was pleading with the referee after the play to throw the flag. And center Jim Sweeney was furious, saying that Evans pulled Moore down, and said, "Why can't we get a break?" Yes, it looked like Moore slipped, but it might be that the only reason he slipped was because Evans slipped first. Most of the Jets, who were admittedly biased, seemed to think that the referee blew this one. But what did Rob Moore think about the whole thing? After all, he was the one who fell to the ground. Well, he didn't know. Maybe it was to protect his wallet, or maybe it was the honest-to-God truth, but he had no idea whether or not there was pass interference there. He said he didn't argue because it wasn't going to change anything. He said the pass itself was good, and he said that he tried to come out of his break but couldn't get his balance, and didn't know if that was on him, or if that was because the defender did anything in particular. Oddly enough, it wasn't the first time that Moore was involved in a 4th down controversy that season. 2 weeks before against the Colts facing 4th and 1, the Jets went for it in the 4th quarter, trailing 28-25. Esiason hit Moore, but was ruled short of the line to gain. However, at least with that, even though there was talk after the game, and even though the Jets felt like they got robbed, it seemed pretty obvious that this was a poor route, and that Moore was short of the first down marker. This play against the Packers, though? Man, that is close. Call it pass interference, call it Moore slipping, call it whatever you want in the comments below. But either way you call it, that is a controversial way to end a football game. And one thing is for certain. Even though the Packers and Jets were on an even playing field entering this game, afterwards, they would go in completely opposite directions. Let's start with the winners in the Green Bay Packers. This win would be absolutely critical for them, as it helped get them into the postseason. While the Packers would lose their next 3 games, they would end the season on a 3-game winning streak, with the offense completely exploding down the stretch. For some perspective, through 8 weeks, the Packers have the 3rd worst offense in the NFC and the 6th worst offense in all of football. At the halfway point, they were anemic on offense. They ended that season with the 4th best offense in the league. It's one of the greatest midseason offensive turnarounds of all time, and it helped guide the Packers to the postseason, with Brett Favre throwing 33 touchdown passes along the way. As for the Jets, yeah, their 1994 collapse is rather infamous. I don't know if it's as bad as their collapse in 2008, where they might have been the Super Bowl favorites at one point and then just completely fell apart, but 1994 is definitely up there, especially considering what it led to. New York finished this season with an abysmal 6-10 record, with one of those losses being the fake spike game. Their offense, while semi-competent in the first half of the season, completely fell apart down the stretch, scoring a mere 36 points over the final 4 games. Head coach Pete Carroll and general manager Dick Steinberg were out at the end of the regular season. And for Jets fans who thought it couldn't get worse from how 1994 ended, congratulations! You wound up with Rich Kodite. That'll be fun. Obviously, when most people think of the 1994 Jets, their attention immediately turns to the fake spike, and it's not hard to see why, especially considering how much of that play is still remembered in NFL history nearly 3 decades later. But the play that really changed their season? It was that pass interference no call against Green Bay. One play doesn't decide a game, and the Jets still have to either get the 2-point conversion or win it in overtime if Moore stays upright and makes the play. But at least they would have had a chance. Whether it was pass interference or not is awfully close, and with the limited replays that we have, it's not conclusive in the slightest bit. What is conclusive, though, is that after this play, everything for the Jets completely fell apart. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot, and be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 PM Eastern for your chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes, link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaguarGear9, and subscribe to 60-second NFL History on YouTube. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters who help get the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.